All this stuff fell off in here and it's back. Can you believe it? I personally can't. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Jason Explains Things. I'm Jason. This is Camo Joe. I don't know if you've come across my mini bike videos in the past. It's been a while since I've done one. This was a stock, run-of-the-mill used Coleman CT200U mini bike. We modified it in that first video. We did the first race, didn't finish, learned a lot, had a lot of fun. There's a video all about it. Then in 2019, we did the second build. We did a lot, even more so than the first. We got a brand new engine. At the time, not brand new anymore. It was a Predator 212 from Harbor Freight Hemi engine. We removed the governor like last time, upgraded the valve springs like last time, but we also installed the torque converter. We installed a awesome front suspension, and then race day came. The video about it, by the way, is fantastic. Please go watch it. I'm gonna link all of the videos in this series down below and in cards and all that kind of thing. We didn't finish. We almost finished. We were this close, but we didn't finish. When is the Gambler Minibike 2020 happening? Thanks for watching, everybody. Well, that didn't happen. The world went to hell in a handbasket, of course. But beyond just that, other stuff too, guys. I had a job that I knew wasn't gonna be a good fit for me for a lot of reasons, so I started my own business. That business died. I hurt my back in 2020 to the point where I had trouble walking, and I'm never gonna ride this stupid mini bike ever again. I remember thinking about it, I am never gonna ride this thing ever again. And I have recovered from that injury a lot, but I still have kind of a bad spine, so I'm a little sketchy about that, but it's 2022, 3 years later, and I'm gonna do another build video again today, and we're gonna get this bike upgraded and ready for another Gambler Enduro race. This time it's gonna be the Washington Gambler Enduro. We're gonna be upgrading tons of stuff. I'm gonna show you the table of parts, but I just wanna I know I'm kind of wasting time here a little bit, but I just wanna say, I'm very thankful and full of gratitude that we're doing this again. I'm doing this again. So let's look at all the stuff that we're gonna be upgrading on Camo Joe today. Let's get started. I can't believe it. Let's get started. Okay, friends, let's go over the parts and general build plan. Goals for this year are increased strength to avoid breakdowns or rider injury, and increasing torque instead of top speed for better hill climbing performance. The Predator 212 Hemi engine is getting a billet aluminum flywheel and piston arm from ARC. This will dramatically improve safety, engine longevity, and increase horsepower. I also planned on installing a Mod 2 camshaft for even more power at high RPMs, but I had the wrong part and ran out of time, so we're gonna have to save that for the future. Higher top speeds weren't my main goal, although spoilers, that kinda ends up happening anyway. The bike will also get a long list of other upgrades, including a new exhaust, beefier foot pegs, taller handlebars, a new rear tire, an oversized 60-tooth rear sprocket for tons more torque, and possibly most important, a premium motocross chain to hopefully avoid any snapping chains on race day. A few other upgrades are going to sneak in as well, including a commercial grade starter rope and MSD ignition coil. And if you're following me along on your own build, I'll try my best to have links to all these parts and tools in the description. I also want to say one more thing really quickly. I want to thank Greg from Redbeard's Garage. He actually reached out to me about the mini bike stuff shortly after the last race, and he saw I didn't finish, and he called me and we talked on the phone, and it was so awesome, and he gave me some advice on mini bike stuff, and I just want to thank you, Redbeard, for your advice years ago. With that said, let's start this adventure. Let's go.
First step is to get the engine out of the bike and strip it down to the block. The original exhaust is being scrapped for our new stuff. I'll be reusing the Uni air filter and Mikuni VM22 carb. Both will get a thorough cleaning.
Still a bunch of Oregon dust on all this stuff. A little bit of metal on that oil, but that's okay. Nice, well, we've got a lot of the external components off the engine so that we can start to work on the rebuild. And also we went through and cleaned everything because you want to work on a clean engine. You don't want to work on a dirty one, of course. Now we can move on to our stage 2 race engine build we're going to be doing today. So let's do it.
Rebuilding an engine is complicated, but trust me, if you just take your time and do some research, you'll be just fine.
She wants to take off.
First, remove the valve cover. By the way, gaskets will likely get damaged, so you'll want to have a complete replacement set.
We need to remove both the piston rods, so to do that we need to remove the rocker arms, which are just held in with a C-clip right there and then over here. Don't mix up which rocker arm is which though. Removing our rods. Next, remove your coil pack.
Pretty much every bolt on this engine is either 8, 10, or 12 millimeter for your information.
So I'm cleaning and also bagging and labeling everything as I go because frankly I don't do this every day, so I don't want to screw up.
Next, carefully remove the cylinder head and the heat shield below it. There are 2 dowel pins at the base of the head I left in place, but they can easily fall out. Best to set these aside also.
Removing the flywheel is pretty easy. We just remove the starter cup and the nut, which is 19 millimeter, and then you can go ahead and toss your plastic fan. It never made it into your leg, haha. Then we're going to put our nut back on to the crankshaft. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a pry bar into the side like this. We're gonna whack the nut and the crankshaft here with a hammer, and that should jolt this loose.
Remove the flywheel key from the crankshaft. Mine was on there pretty tight, so it took me a little bit.
Next, gonna go work on this side. We're gonna remove the side cover, which is 6 10 millimeter bolts.
Time to remove the cam tappets, simply by sliding them out of the block. Next, remove the original piston rod cap with a 10 millimeter wrench.
Rod cap off. Okay, we can push our piston out of the block. We can fling it out of the block too. And now we can pull out our crankshaft and we have a completely empty and disassembled engine. This is gonna go into kind of a lot of detail. The first thing we're gonna do is we need to install the bearings into our new piston arm. And to do that, we need to first check the crankshaft journal to make sure that it is exactly the right size. So we're gonna have oil clearance and lubricate the bearing and the journal. You're gonna have to get yourself a micrometer. Hopefully, if everything is in good shape, we're going to have this be 1.188 inches. And as long as we're within 1/5000th of an inch, we are gonna be good. And we are looking close to perfect. I'm seeing 1.186, 1.188, 1.187. Like we're so close to perfect that I'm gonna go ahead and say that this crankshaft journal is in perfect condition. We're gonna still check our oil clearances with some plastic gauge as we seat our bearings, but this install should go perfectly. We will have to modify it a little bit later, but we'll get to that. All right, time to seat our bearings into the new piston arm. So I have it secured in a vise right here, nicely protected with a microfiber cloth. To work on this, you need to remove these 2 bolts, which you're going to need a 12-point 1/4 inch socket. There's 2 dots. That's how you know how to put it back together later. The cool thing about this too is it can only go in one way. So just like that, nice and centered. Perfect.
With the rod secured and the bearings in place, set the crank journal into the rod.
To also make sure that we have the correct oil clearances, I'm gonna use a piece of plastic gauge. Take a 1/4-inch piece of plastic gauge, which is this little stuff, and it's going to squish once it's torqued down and show you what the clearance is. Then we put our cap on, lining up our dots. Then we need to oil our bolts, and then we can torque this down.
Using a 1/4-inch torque wrench, torque the rod bolts first to 20 inch-pounds each, then up to 170 inch-pounds, stepping up 20 inch-pounds at a time. The bearings are now seated properly. Let's check our final oil clearance.
But looks like we're probably right in line, because that's 0.3, that's 0.2, and I think we're right on the money.
If you're installing a Mod 2 camshaft into a Predator 212 Hemi engine, you must grind down the area around the journal as you see here to ensure proper clearance. You can skip this if you plan to keep your stock camshaft. I'm now future-proofed for coming upgrades.
Sure.
With everything clean, we are ready for final assembly. Oil and install your crankshaft back into the block. Next, install the new rod onto the piston. Oil all components as shown. Also make sure that the arrow on the piston itself and the oil holes on the rod are facing down. Secure everything together with the original C-clip. Before installation, make sure that the piston ring gaps are 180 degrees from each other. Oil the piston rings and cylinder walls. Using an oiled ring compressor, install the piston back into the block. A cool trick is to tap it back into the block with a wood handle. Install your rod cap for the final time. Just like before, oil the bolts and torque to 170 inch-pounds, starting at 60 inch-pounds and stepping up to 170 20 inch-pounds at a time. Oil and reinstall your cam tappets. Install your oiled camshaft. This is when I realized that I had the wrong part. So back in goes the stock one. Make sure to line up the dots on the cam and crankshaft to have proper timing. Install the side cover with a new gasket and torque the bolts to 17 foot-pounds. Install the cylinder head with the dowel pins and a fresh gasket, torquing the 4 bolts to 17 foot-pounds. And don't forget that heat shield. Time to install this beautiful beast. So next we have to mate this surface to that with some grinding compound. Apply grinding compound to the crank as shown.
You can slide this into place while holding the crankshaft with one hand. You spin this back and forth, side to side, and you're gonna hear a grinding sound, which is normal. And just keep doing that until that grinding sound gets nice and light, and then this is seated. Now, with that all done, we need to thoroughly clean all of the lapping compound off of the flywheel and the crank. Perfectly clean, really important to get all of it off because it will destroy lots of stuff if you leave it there. Install the flywheel key as shown, flat towards the block and sticking up from the taper. Now install the starter cup and nut, torquing to 54 foot-pounds. Yep, that looks like 54 foot-pounds for sure. Back in goes your push rods and rocker arms. I also verified my valve lash to be 0.003 inches. Lastly, install your valve cover and ignition coil. Use a feeler gauge to make sure that the coil is 0.03 inches from the flywheel. I think everything turned out great. This still needs oil and a few other things, but we're gonna turn our attention to the frame of the bike. We're gonna take the rear wheel off, we're gonna replace that rear sprocket, and then we're gonna replace the tire. So we'll leave this alone, we'll come back to it later. There you can see how much larger our new rear sprocket is. That's going to help a ton with torque. Awesome. I went ahead and cheated a little bit and I went to a tire shop to swap out the tire. You can do this yourself with 2 tire spoons at home. I did this last time and it took me 30 minutes to do. So you can definitely do it yourself if you want to. It just kind of sucks. So anyway, let's move on to the front. Awesome, guys. We've got everything back together. I couldn't help last night but put the exhaust on just because I wanted to see it, and it looks completely rad. Over here behind the camera, we've got the frame of the bike pretty much ready to go. We've got the new foot pegs, we've got the new rear tire, new rear sprocket, new handlebars, and I've kind of gone through and checked everything. And we need to address a couple more things with our engine, and then we can put it back in. And that is, of course, very important, an oil change. On all these Predator and Honda clone engines, you pretty much need about half a quart of 10W30 oil. Now, what I'm gonna be using, which is in slightly an odd case for some oil, is Havoline Lifelong Full Synthetic 10W30 oil. This is awesome for a variety of reasons. First off, the packaging uses 70% less plastic than pretty much your standard jug of oil. Also, it comes in my opinion, a very convenient size. This is 6 quarts rather than 5. Now, this doesn't pertain to this oil change, but if you're doing a car, usually I've found that most cars are like 5.5 or 6 quarts of oil. And so you'll almost always find yourself buying the 5 quart and then a couple, 1 or 2 single quart containers of oil. But this is all you're pretty much gonna need for most oil changes with a car, let alone this single box is going to change the oil on this guy, and then it's also probably gonna service my my lawnmowers, my other motorcycles I have around here, and all of that can just use this single box of oil pretty much for the season. Also, in full transparency, Havoline and Techron are a sponsor now on Jason Explains Things. So let's go ahead and get started with our oil change. You can go by half a quart, but what we essentially do is using a funnel, you fill it till it starts to run out of the fill port here. And then I highly recommend using Power Sports and small engine treatment from Techron because ethanol gas is not very friendly when it comes to these engines. So pretty much on any small engine, whether that be a lawnmower or this, or a motorcycle, highly recommend this. It's going to clean things, but also it's going to stabilize the fuel. So when I fill up later, I'm gonna be using this.
The frame is ready. The engine is ready. Time to bring Camo Joe back to life. With the engine installed, I measured how long our awesome new chain needs to be and cut it to length along with a backup chain. How many pulls before it fires up?
Oh yeah, choke. She wants to take off.
A quick carburetor tune got her running perfectly. I'll link to a great video I found on how to tune a Mikuni carburetor. I've got 2 more final upgrades to show you. First, how to replace a starter rope with a commercial grade rope.
Okay, here's our new cord. Looks super awesome. Supposed to have a higher strength and resist stretching and all that good stuff. So, and it's black. Pretty much got it because it's black. To replace your cord, simply just pull it out all the way like this. So now we can put a screwdriver in here like this to hold it in place. Pull our knot out. Just like that. Okay, so taking our original rope and our new rope, we're just going to match lengths here. Obviously add a little bit to it to be able to have enough space for our knot. What I had to end up doing is wrapping the new cord in some electrical tape and having it have a nice little point at the end here. Knot looks good. Now we can feed in our new cords nice and slowly. So if I remember correctly, I think this mark right here kind of signifies where it should end. So I'm gonna do that right now. So all I need to do is just kind of go like that and tie a knot just like last time. All right, pull cord upgraded. Will not snap on us during the race. Hopefully. Last thing, and this is honestly a thank you to Redbeard again, who has given me so much knowledge about mini bikes, but also like when we chatted on the phone, he encouraged me to keep going with the YouTube channel and everything. Redbeard sells these upgraded coils for these specific engines on his website for 60 bucks, and they're awesome. They have a really nice upgraded MSD spark plug end right here. And then also, we got to match the same sticker as the last year, so we got a Redbeard Goose It sticker to put on our torque converter cover. Awesome, guys, the Camo Joe build is now complete. It is time for some practice runs. Practice run number 1, backyard. All right, everyone, we're in the exact same place we did the top speed test last time. If you saw the last video, you might remember I had some issues with that gate and my brake cable snapping. So today, I'm wearing full protection. Okay, top speed of 48. I think I could have gone a little bit higher, but I got uncomfortable with just pegging it so long, so I'm happy with that. Let's go do some practice runs and some shakedowns of this old thing. Woohoo! So you can just let it fall. There you go. All right, here's some of our team. Jordan, unfortunately, is not on the team this year, but he's gonna train with us anyway for future things. Chris, have you ever ridden this thing before?
No.
Well, Chris is on the team, so you better practice.
I probably should.
Okay, well, let's practice then. Whoa! It's sort of terrifying. All right, hill climb test. Okay, initial impressions are fantastic. Going up hills, there's plenty of torque. Ah! Yeah! Yeah! You wanna ride it?
Yeah, okay.
You're gonna ride it! Crashed yet. I'm impressed.
She's a spicy little jumping bean.
she really is.
I didn't fall, so I'm happy about that. I put my feet down quite a few times.
That's fine.
But once I figured out where the pedals were, it was fine.
The pedals
they're
are
right there. It
turns
right there,
out. Yeah.
I thought they were up here. I thought they were out here. And now we're all set.
Well, guys, we're having an awesome time up here. The light is starting to go away, so we'll wrap up the video portion of this. Thank you so much for watching the third Camo Joe mini bike build video. But we are not done yet. Stay tuned to this channel, subscribe, turn on notifications, because the race video is coming up very soon after this video is posted. If you're watching this in 2025, you just go right to it right now. Guys, again, I really appreciate all the support, likes, subscribes, attaboys, anything. It's fantastic. I'm not gonna lie, I never thought I'd do this. I never thought the mini bike would come back. It makes me emotional in my heart, in my feels. And I'm a lucky guy. See you guys soon. God bless. Don't forget to do it yourself. That's it.